We got Cameron from the UK who's calling in. Cameron, you're live on Talk Heathen. What's up?
Hi guys. So I watched this show and the Atheist Experience, and mainly my main question is sort of why in today's society is it needed to have such shows? I am an atheist, and so there is two sides to what I'm saying. So why is there such a need for atheist shows? But at the same time, why is there such a big push from the Christian community, especially in America, where I've seen TV commercials that are promoting Christianity, and yeah, it just doesn't. It doesn't. It's like sometimes one is trying to up the other, and we keep upping the ante.
Yeah, I'll speak to this first because I'm the American here, okay, and then I want to hear Emma's thoughts. But look, America is a crazy place, okay? It's a crazy place full of crazy people. Like that has pretty much always been true. There is in the American education system, when you grow up here, you're told this narrative that says, look, the Puritans first came to America for religious freedom, right? And there's another perspective that says they went here because they were fucking crazy and nobody wanted to be with them. Okay, you can look at it from both perspectives, but religion and America have always been intertwined. There's something about that relationship there that people have spent their entire careers trying to figure out what is the connections there. So I'm not going to be the one to give you a full revelation on why that is, but I can give you a couple of things. One, of course, is our very famous declarations of religious freedom, right? Like that's literally written, in some of our founding documents, founding amendments and stuff too, right? When we talk about the differences in the separation of church and state, that's kind of even unique today in some Western nations. Even the UK doesn't have that. But the weird thing is, of course, the UK ends up being the more non-religious nation and America ends up being the more religious nation. How does that happen? I have no idea. Maybe it's because as a government function, it has to serve more people and it ends up being more inclusive and therefore more secular. I don't know. Point is, like, there's a weird history there. But the other thing I think too is just the capitalism of the situation, right? Like in the history of evangelicalism in particular, right? There is money to be made with religion. And that sounds extremely cynical to say, but you can form gigantic churches that make lots of money and don't get taxed the same way as normal businesses because you are a religious organization. And so you have these folks like Joel Osteen, you have these folks like Pat Robertson that have literally made their entire careers doing this kind of thing. And that has significantly influenced the culture. I mean, we literally started a Christian television channel, right? Like it's kind of always been there in the back of people's minds. And on top of that, of course, they have been a driving force in our politics as well. So like abortion issues, for example, are almost exclusively religiously motivated. Abortion used to be not as big of a deal until some of these movements happened in the 60s and 70s here, where evangelical organizations really pushed for stuff like that. It's kind of like this other arm of the government that really pushes the narrative on issues. I mean, look at like gay rights, for example. The UK was much quicker to pick up on gay rights for the most part than here in the United States because of this. Now, weirdly enough, trans issues, not so much, but like there is like a religious motivation here that's cultural, but also influential in our policy that it's just a thing here in the US. And so that's why shows like this exist, to answer your question, right? It's like, look, you may not benefit from this as much as somebody else, but there's a lot of people who have said, look, I watched a call here or I watched something online and that changed the way I thought about things. And personally, that's what motivates me to do this show, because I want to be able to keep that up, keep that energy up, because we need that. Lord knows we need that. Okay. I say that fully ironic, of course. But like, look, the U.S. of all people, we need it. The rest of the world, if you guys benefit from it, that's great too. But listen, America, man, America needs it more than most. I'll put it that way. Anyway, that's my long answer. Eva, what's your perspective?
Well, I can jump in. Cameron, it's nice to hear an English voice as well. So thank you. From a UK perspective,
I follow you. And through Simon down.
Wonderful. Another lovely English gent. Yeah, we have a strange approach to religion here. I'd say, in terms of why do we have this show, it's because there are religious shows, because religious shows exist, and because we are very globalized now. And there are lots of, I think part of what I'm interested in is the fact that a lot of places where religion has a strong and negative impact on people's lives, it's very hard for them to talk about it. So it's useful for shows like this to exist outside those spaces to spread awareness. But even within the UK, we have we are a Christian nation technically, and our part of the way our parliamentary system works, our senior, a lot of people aren't familiar with this, especially in the US, our senior bishops are automatically given positions in the House of Lords, which means they can affect policy and law in this country, which is something that is we're trying to challenge at the moment and is amazingly outdated. So religion does play a strong factor even in British life, even though we are so strongly secular. We've only very recently in the last census, a census where we identify all the demographics of the people living in the country, we've only just become a not majority Christian, which is super interesting as a position to be in. And I certainly grew up with being taught Christianity as the largest part of sort of religious education, and I find that frustrating. And church is sort of a part of everyday life for probably most children in this country, even though that changes as people get older. So even in our much less aggressively Christian than America nation, it's still surprisingly has a strong impact I would say we sort of have a stealth version of the American Christian nation. But yeah, and I think the fact that a lot of people don't know those things is also why these shows are useful.
Yeah, I don't know whether you've come across anyone yourself, Emma, in the UK. I certainly haven't. But there's for some reason in the US, there's a stigma for people coming out and saying they're an atheist, and it seems to. I've never been quite able to get my head around that one.
Yeah, there's definitely a stigma in most places in the US. At best, you get a response that maybe people don't care. At worst, it's, well, you're a terrible human being who obviously eats babies and, does the whole 9 yards, right? So like that's another thing too. I think shows like this help empower people, and hopefully we give voices to the thoughts people have in their heads that they wish they could say to their friends and family, but maybe they can't because they feel trapped or scared, or they're scared of being kicked out, or they're scared of losing their financial resources or other resources. I know I've been in that situation, and I'm really glad I'm not anymore. I'm really glad I'm an adult that can, kind of make my own income and live my own life. But definitely when I was younger, it was like, oh man, I really am kind of stuck in this place I don't want to be. So there's a lot of reasons why shows like this exist, and I hope to make it so that shows like this don't have to exist anymore, to be honest. If Talk Heathen doesn't have to exist anymore, that'd be a great day. I'd celebrate that, but we're not there yet, not even close. So
I know I'm taking up time, so this one will be really, really quick.
Real quick, Cameron, and then we gotta let you go.
Yeah, so Emma, I know you've had dealings with Kent Hovind, or Hovind, or however you want to pronounce it. Would you guys ever like to invite him onto shows like this or the Atheist Experience?
He wouldn't. He only goes on shows that he controls or his friends control, and there's a very there's a very simple reason for that, which is that he has a limited number of arguments which he's been using for the past 30 years, and he doesn't do well in other environments. So
he is a great source of laughable entertainment.
You know, there's something to be said about, I mean, like, first of all, I'm a volunteer. All hosts are volunteers. Okay. So any kinds of decisions like that would ultimately be up to the production staff. But if you want my take on it personally, look, like Ken Hovind, is egregious and influences a lot of people and is terrible. But like, he's not even the biggest thing I'm worried about right now. I'm worried about folks still trying to take away even more access to like abortion rights, or folks who are taking away even more access to healthcare for trans folks and stuff like that, right? Like Ken Hovind is just like one of just like many huge big problems right now. And let's be honest, talking to Ken Hovind, that's shooting fish in a barrel. Okay, like look, the man's been dunked on a million times. Sure, we can dunk on him again, but man, come on.
There's nothing to say to Ken Hovind that hasn't been said 50 times.
It's
yesterday. You know, this week there's no point.
Yeah, but I won't rule it out, because look, that's up to the production staff to make anything like that happen. But I don't see it happening anytime soon. But again, I don't make those decisions. So hey, Cameron, thanks so much for calling in. I'll go ahead and let you go now. But really appreciate your perspective.